Hey guys, Tux here, back with another review. So today we're going to be looking at 3 different wireless mice, and I picked these 3 out because they are all 3 different shapes, and I think they're going to be good for different grip styles and also different hand sizes. So guys, let's jump straight into it. If you like these types of videos, hit me with a like and hit me with a sub if you want to see more. So let's jump straight into it. So let's quickly go over each mouse, and then I'll go more in depth in the shape at the end. So first things first, the Viper Ultimate. So the build quality is really good on the Viper Ultimate. It's actually probably the peak of Razer, I would say. It's been really good with me. I've had 2 of these so far, and both have been pretty flawless, especially since they put the V2 switches in. It's got great grips on the side. They're a bit hit or miss, but most people will enjoy them. They're just they haven't had any wear down issues, which is really nice. I think that was one of the major things that people were a bit scared about when they started adding rubber to the sides, but because they're injection molded, they're quite deep, I believe, and they also wrap around the whole area of the mouse. So yeah, they are nice. The feet are actually quite good out of the box. These are Corpad, no, they're Tiger Ice actually. Yeah, they're Tiger Ice feet. And I chucked these on there because I wanted to give them a go for a review, but I ended up getting them all for the Superlight instead. But the feet out of the box are actually pretty good. They're quite fast, they have decent stopping power, but they are on the faster end of out of the box feet, I would say, so be prepared for that. The scroll wheel, really good, very well tensioned, no rattling at all, absolutely brilliant scroll wheel. And the left and right mouse button are actually really good with the V2 switches. On the V1s they were a little bit mushy, but those issues have all been fixed, at least in the Viper Ultimate. We'll go more in depth on that on the DeathAdder V2 because I have a little bit of a different opinion on that one. But because of the disconnected shell, they feel really good, and I think they've been tuned. The V2 switches have been tuned especially for detached shell, because they do feel best in this variation. The side buttons are on both sides, as you guys know, for the Viper. Not the best travel distance, unfortunately, but they're alright. Wireless is near perfect. I would say the Razer wireless series is probably the most responsive mice I've felt in terms of wireless, and the sensors are just near perfect as well. The weight is 75 grams, but it is well balanced. I think this mouse feels really good in the hand for a 75-gram mouse. It feels quality, but it also feels like you can perform and flick where you need to go. However, I would say that just glossing over the shape quickly, the shape does leave a little bit to desire because it is quite low profile. And also the latency on this mouse is 7 milliseconds when wired and 9 milliseconds in wireless, and I got that off Artings or ratings. So jump into the next mouse. All right, so let's jump into the G Pro Superlight here. So the G Pro Superlight, if you guys know from my review already, I really like this mouse. It's 60 grams weight. It's very well balanced. I think a lot of people say that. It just feels really good in the hand for a 60-gram mouse. It doesn't feel cheap at all. The only downside is that the left and right mouse button have a little bit too much travel for my liking, and so do the side buttons. I wish they were a little bit snappier, a little bit less travel overall. It would make the mouse feel even better in hand. But the scroll wheel is really nice quality. It feels nice tactile steps, and it's quite I don't know, it just feels really nice, really solid, doesn't feel loose at all. And the coating itself is a very slightly rubberized plastic, but it does feel really good to the hand. I have heard some people say that their coating has wore down over time, but mine has stayed pretty much in mint condition. So and I've been using it quite a bit, so I don't know about their experience, but I'm just going to go off my experience, not give you guys any false information. The unfortunate thing about this mouse, it does use Omron 20Ms. I wish they used different switches for these, but I do want them to keep the switches light, and I know that when you go aftermarket like GM 8.0s, they do get a little bit heavier. So that's the thing about this mouse, is it's such a good mouse, but they didn't really improve in a lot of areas over the previous G Pro because they already had such a good product. It's like they didn't really bother to go too crazy with this one, which is a bit unfortunate. Anyway, decent feet out of the box. The feet weren't rounded, unfortunately, so for maybe like a Heian like this one is, it might be a bit scratchy out of the box, but they were relatively fast, and they had they were very similar to the Viper feet out of the box, I would say, but I think the Viper feet were a little bit better because they did feel smoother out of the box than the Viper, than the Superlight, sorry. The egg shape is going to be good for a lot of people, which I will go over more detail with later. And the latency on the click on this one is 8 milliseconds when wireless and 9 milliseconds when wired. So pretty much in line with the Viper, which is pretty good, but not the same as the DeathAdder V2, which is interesting because I don't know if they've maybe optimized the DeathAdder V2 Pro more or something with the internals, because it seems to be responding faster than the Superlight and the Viper, which has the same internals, which is interesting. So jumping into the next mouse, we're now going to talk about the Razer DeathAdder V2 Pro, and I'm just going to quickly gloss over this mouse because I'm going to go more into the shape, which is the main thing I want to talk about on all these mice. So it's a nice large ergo shape and wireless. It uses micro USB like the Viper. It's got great side buttons. The side buttons are, you know, they're really, really good. They're top quality. They're very well positioned, tactile, and they are large. And when you're holding it, you know, you're able to easily access the side buttons, especially the front one. Very easy to hit. Good feet, but not as good as the Viper, unfortunately. They're a little bit slower. I don't know why they don't use the same feet, but if you want a more controlled glide out of the box, I actually don't think these are that bad. You won't, you know, feel the need to change them out of the box, which is good. General quality, though, I believe is a step down from the Viper. Unfortunately, the sides on my model have started creaking, and that was only after a couple weeks. I think I may have just got a bad model because I've had 2 of these so far, and only this one has started creaking, but it's the way they, you know, they fit them. So I can't say for everyone that it's going to be fine, unfortunately. The left and right mouse button are a little bit less tactile due to them being attached to the shell. I don't think that's as good as the Viper. I think they should be detached. I don't know why they aren't. I think it's just they're trying to keep the Razer, you know, Death Adder as an iconic, you know, look. If they changed it too much, I think they might not, you know, they might think people might not recognize it as well, but I'm not sure. And the scroll wheel is a bit looser. It's not as tight as the Viper, but you know, I don't think it's too big of an issue. It still feels high quality. The sensor is still flawless, and so is the wireless. You know, it uses the same sensor as the Razer Viper. The only thing about the sensor is a little bit further back, but I'll go more into detail on that later in the video. And it's got optical switches like the Viper, so no debounce, which is nice. You know, you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. The only downside is it is 88 grams, voice crack, compared to the 75 grams on the Viper. So 88 grams for a mouse today definitely isn't the lightest. It's on the heavier side, but the main thing I don't like about the 88 grams is that it's pretty back heavy. So when I try to pick it up, due to the shape, I have the least amount of grip on the back of the mouse, and it just seems to just want to fall out my hand. So yeah, that is a bit unfortunate. Now on Artings, this mouse is rated at 6 milliseconds wired click latency and 5 milliseconds wireless. I don't know how it's faster wireless. Maybe it's more optimized, but yeah, that is really, really fast. Now let's go over the shapes of all of them, which I think is the most important thing. I think in today's, you know, world, you should be focusing on shape over everything. So that's what we're going to be going over now. Okay guys, so let's quickly go over the shapes. I've done this video like 3 times now talking about shapes, and I just keep rambling on. But I just want to basically give you an overview of which mouse I think is going to be best for you. So first, I'd like to say the Viper is probably going to be best for medium-sized hands. I would say 19 centimeters long and under, just because I feel like you can't really get that you know, support in the back of your hand unless you're smaller than 20 centimeters. I mean, I can because I'm 20, but it's like, it's not optimal. I've tried the FK1, which is a slightly bigger Viper, and it just feels nicer in the palm support area. So yeah, I would say 19 centimeters and under. It's going to work for fingertip, claw, and palm, just because of the safe shape and the low profile. It's going to work for literally everything, which is really, really nice. And the hump at the back is flat, if you guys were curious. Some people do prefer flat, some people prefer rounded, and the edges are all, you know, they're all, Jesus Christ, they're all quite curved, and also you've got quite good comfort grooves in all the buttons, which is nice. Then moving on to the G Pro Superlight, you've got a centralized hump. The Razer Viper Ultimate has a centralized to slightly back hump, which is basically better for, I would say slightly further back hump is better for a palm, only because when you're using a G Pro Superlight like this, you have to kind of arch your fingers over that hump right there because it peaks right there and it's kind of annoying. So yeah, I would say this mouse is going to be best for your fingertip and claw grip users, and also I would say it's going to be best for people with medium to large hands, 21 centimeters down to 18 centimeters. I have heard people saying, some people say that the mouse is too big for them, and I believe that's just because they have basically slightly average to maybe slightly smaller hands, and because you hear that so much, I'm just going to assume that this mouse is basically better for slightly larger hands. I do get, you know, a decent amount of palm grip support. If I had smaller hands, I do think down to 18, I think, you know, under that might be a little bit too, I don't know, might feel a little bit too bulky. Then moving on to the Razer Death Adder V2, you got a centralized hump, and it does fall down very fast toward the end, and does, you know, it gradually goes down towards the front, but not as much as I'd like because it is quite high here. The thing I don't like about the Death Adder is that the shape doesn't give them enough palm support, even for a palm gripper, and also when you palm grip, the angle is so steep. I don't know, it's just weird. Like, you just got to go up and then you got to lay your fingers completely flat. It just doesn't feel nice. And then my fingers land over the top because there's no support at the back, so I'm really up on the hump. It's just, I don't know, I don't really like this shape anymore. I much prefer the Corsair Saber Pro, which I'll be doing a review of soon. Overall, the shape is okay. I think some people are going to like it, especially claw grippers, but for 88 grams and where the weight is so back heavy and you got creaking, you know, the buttons are attached to the shell, it's just overall, I wouldn't recommend this as much as many other ergos. You know, I think there's other great options on the market now, and that's coming from someone who used to love the Death Adder and has used it for like 6 years. But unfortunately, it's just, yeah, I don't know, it's just not as good as the other options, unfortunately. So I would recommend, because the Death Adder is quite wide, but it is, I don't know, it just seems a little bit short just because the hump isn't too far back. I would say you probably need about 20 centimeter hands, 19 centimeter hands to be able to use this effectively. It's hard to say because it's a weird shape, and I don't really recommend this this mouse as is, because it just, I don't know, I don't think Razer have done enough to really make this mouse what it could have been, especially what they've done with the Viper with the detached shell. Better feet out of the box, better balancing, it just better scroll wheel, just feels nicer all around. So that is my review, guys. If I was to, you know, give you a quick, you know, TLDR, if you have medium hands and you wanted, you know, a good quality mouse for FPS, I would say the Razer Viper. If you have medium to large hands and you want something for either faster paced games or FPS as well, and you wanted a bit more claw grip support, then I would say, or palm support, then I would say go with the G-Pro Superlight. But anyway, that is my video on these 3 mice. They are 3 great mice. Unfortunately, I just can't recommend the Death Adder V2. These 2 are still amazing, and I can't wait to see what Razer come out with to challenge the Superlight, because it's probably going to be coming out this year, I assume, although I know that they have a new mouse called the Orochi coming out at the end of the month, which is basically like a, if you guys heard of the G305 from Logitech, they're making like a new version of that, but Razer are making it, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you liked the video, hit the like. If you love the video, hit the sub button, and if you want to see more, just let me know down in the description below. Give me some ideas of what to do. I've got the ZA12 to do, which is an insanely good claw grip mouse. This is the ZA12B. Zowie aren't innovating much these days, but their shapes are still, you know, insane. And yeah, the Corsair Saber Pro, guys, I can't wait to do a review on this. It's been an amazing mouse. I can almost keep dropping all my mice. So yeah, I'm going to give you more details on that in another video. So that was my comparison of the 3 mice. Man, it's so hard to keep this video short because there's so much to say. But if you're looking at more of a medium mouse, then I would go with the Razer Viper Ultimate. You know, if you're playing an FPS game and you don't need the lightest mouse, I would say a Viper Ultimate is basically equal on the same ground with the Superlight. I'm excited to see what the Razer team come out with next, because, you know, they're always innovating these years, and, you know, the Viper Ultimate's been out for a little while now, so it's about time for a refresh this year, I would say. But the Superlight is a great all-round mouse. Definitely, you know, it leaves a bit to be desired there. They definitely could have put a bit more effort in with the buttons, but the overall weight balancing, the shape, just the premium feel of it is just, they've really knocked out in the park in certain aspects, but certain aspects they definitely just, you know, didn't really innovate on, unlike Razer, who seem to be doing that all the time these years, or these days. I keep saying these years, but it is kind of a yearly timeline with mice. The Death Adder V2, just a bit old-fashioned now. I don't know, it could have been a great mouse, but the quality issues, you know, especially when you've got, you know, the same company is making a mouse that feels this good in the hand, and then you've got a Death Adder that feels, you know, the switches don't feel as good, the weight is a lot heavier, and it's so much more back heavy, guys. I'm telling you, if you get this mouse in the hand, I don't think you'd really enjoy using it, so that's why I'm not really going to be recommending it from this video, unfortunately. I feel like there's wired options at the moment that are just way better, that make the wire worth it, you know, even though we are looking for wireless mice at the moment. I think the large ergo market is kind of dry. But anyway, guys, yeah, medium hands, medium large hands, and then if you really want an ergo, I would say check out the Corsair Saber Pro. I'm gonna be doing a review on that basically over the next couple days. But this mouse is so much better than the Death Adder. It's like a perfect ergo. It's 8K as well, if I didn't mention that. Like, it's really good, and the quality is insane. That is my video on these 3, you know, really good mice at the moment, but I would just be recommending these 2 from this video if you're looking at them. If you were looking at this one, sorry to disappoint, but I just think the Razer Death Adder V2 just doesn't really keep up with the mice today, and I think there's better options. But anyway, guys, if you like the video, hit the like button. If you love the video, hit the sub. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments. Give me some ideas of what you want to see next. I've got the Zowie ZA12 to be reviewing. Insanely good claw grip mouse. Love this shape, and that came out like, you know, 6 months ago. You know, Zowie's definitely not innovating as much, but their shapes are just so good. And obviously the Corsair Saber Pro. So anyway, have a good rest of your day, guys. I appreciate you guys watching the video, and I'll get some B-roll shots done now for the video as well to make it a little bit more interesting. Have a good rest of your day. Peace out. Much love.